Why the Queen Mother Never Forgave Wallis Simpson, May 1937. A palace official picked up a pen. With that stroke, it was settled. Wallis Simpson would never be Her Royal Highness. Not now. Not in any future anyone could design. The title was withheld, deliberately, permanently. The new queen had ensured it herself. Her name was Elizabeth. And she had not forgotten a single thing. They came from entirely different worlds. Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon was raised in Scottish castles, Glamis Castle, stone floors and centuries of tradition. She believed that duty was not merely a virtue, it was a way of life. Her world was built on stone and centuries of unyielding tradition. It was a foundation that she did not readily alter. Wallis Warfield Simpson came from a world entirely different, Baltimore, America. She had reinvented herself twice, with 2 marriages already behind her. By the time she appeared in British society, she moved as someone with nothing left to prove. She was sharp and unsentimental. She found royal protocol faintly ridiculous. She was a woman who lived by her own rules, not the Crown's. Elizabeth married the Duke of York with genuine and simple happiness. Bertie was shy, slightly lost in the shadow of his older brother. She steadied him, building something careful and good together. They were content to remain in the background of royal life. But the peace they built was destined to be shattered.
Who
Wales with
understands?
quiet and sharp precision. His devotion to her was total. It alarmed everyone watching. The heir
Well,
to
I
the
never.
throne was disappearing
Did
into
you
this
hear
woman's
that?
world. He was losing himself in a love that ignored all consequences. It was an obsession that felt like a betrayal to the family. The 2 women met in the early 1930s at Fort Belvedere, at Royal Lodge. The encounters were civil, yet politely and intensely guarded. Elizabeth was watchful, seeing the rapid change. The shift was not only swift,
Did you hear
but it
about
was happening with obvious joy. That alarmed Elizabeth more than anything else. Joy, pointed in that direction, meant danger. King George V died in January 1936. The Prince of Wales became Edward VIII. What had been a private discomfort became a constitutional crisis. A reigning king wished to marry a twice-divorced American. The Church of England would not permit it. The Prime Minister would not support it. The family was appalled. For
You all right,
Elizabeth,
dear?
this was not about institutions.
I don't know.
It was about her husband's face. Bertie stammered. He dreaded crowds. He dreaded speeches. He had never wanted the throne. He was a second son. He had been shaped to serve quietly beside his brother. Elizabeth watched him, her heart breaking for the man she loved. The abdication came in December 1936. Edward signed the papers. He walked away from the throne, leaving the burden behind. That morning, Bertie became King George VI. Elizabeth became queen, her verdict on Wallis now final. She had seen the cost of this love story in her husband's eyes. She wrote to a close friend in the weeks that followed. She described the burden on Bertie as something no man should carry. Her letters were not heated, they were cold and precise. The name she used for Wallis was never a name at all. That woman. It entered her private vocabulary and it never left. Her first weapon was protocol. The letters patent were quietly amended. Wallis would never hold the title Her Royal Highness. She could curtsy to women younger than herself. She could attend functions as a guest, never as family. The wound was made permanent in ink. Elizabeth had ensured it. It was a cold, calculated victory for tradition. The new Duke and Duchess of Windsor settled in France. It was not entirely their preference. They wished for a role. Every proposal for Edward to return was quietly refused. The answer was always no. Elizabeth's influence was ever present. She held the gates with absolute precision and kept them closed. In 1952, King George VI died, leaving Elizabeth a widow. Wallis came to England for the funeral, a rare and promptly turn. She curtsied to the new Queen and to Elizabeth, now the Queen Mother. Elizabeth received her with perfect composure. Not warmth, not cruelty, nothing passed between them beyond what duty required. Lady Colin Campbell has described Elizabeth's self-control as extraordinary. She was a wall, dressed in mourning black. The weight of the crown had shortened Bertie's life, she believed. And she never forgot who had placed that weight there. The grudge was now solidified by the finality of death. The years accumulated. The silence between them grew deeper. Elizabeth became the beloved Queen Mother, a symbol of the nation. In France, Edward's health began to deteriorate slowly. Wallis cared for him with a sharp, devoted, but lonely focus. Two worlds, separated by 50 years of unsaid words. In 1972, Edward was dying in Paris. The Queen, Elizabeth II, visited him. Wallis received her in their home. It was brief and formal. 50 years of silence hung in the air between them. No peace was offered, none was sought. The wall that Elizabeth had built remained perfectly intact. Edward died that May, leaving Wallis alone at last. She was 75 years old, and visibly lost in a world without him. The cause of the conflict was gone, but the distance held. Wallis told those close to her she never fully understood it. She had not designed the crisis, yet she bore part of the blame. Wallis was brought to England, and stayed briefly at Buckingham Palace. The Queen Mother made no approach. There was no softening. Even then, with the cause of the conflict gone, the distance held. Understanding was beside the point for the Queen Mother. She required only Wallis's absence, and for decades, she received it. Wallis Simpson died in Paris in 1986, after years of seclusion. She is buried beside Edward at Frogmore, within the grounds of Windsor Castle, close to the family that never fully received her. The Queen Mother lived on, reaching her 100th year. She was beloved by the nation, yet she still held something closed. The Queen Mother lived until 2002, over a century of royal history. By the end, she moved through her final years with extraordinary warmth. But somewhere inside that warmth, she still held the old grudge. There is no record of forgiveness, no private letter of peace. If peace came at all, it came in a room no one else could enter. What do we make of a grudge that lasts 70 years? Elizabeth never answered that question publicly, carrying it with composure. Perhaps she believed she had earned the right to her resentment. The damage to Bertie was real, and his health never recovered. He died in 1952, at only 56. Young for a king, Elizabeth never stopped believing the weight of the crown had shortened his life, and she never forgot who had placed it there on his head. The love story of Edward and Wallis was irrelevant to her. What mattered was the cost, and she had seen it firsthand. It was a cost paid in years, in health, and in peace. Two women, one crown, one December morning that neither could undo. A rift that shaped the Windsor family half a century after. Neither ever fully escaped the shadow of the other. Not in life, and not in how history remembers them. They were bound together by a choice they didn't make. Some wounds are not meant to heal, they are simply carried. Elizabeth carried her wound to the very end of her long life. She was the architect of her own silence, and she never wavered. The story of the two women remains a testament to the power of memory. A reminder that even in royalty, the heart never forgets.